I probably wouldn't be a very good fit at the University of Virginia.
You don't think?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But I think that I am a good fit at NC State, and I think that that's an important piece to everything that sometimes gets overlooked in the coaching searches and in the coaching world. You can throw a lot of money at somebody, but you still got to have somebody who's a very, very solid fit with the fan base, with the area, and all that sort of stuff.
I think so. Just from an outsider's perspective, I think what makes you the
not a good fit at UConn either.
Hey, no, you know what? You would actually fit in really well up there, man. If you we could have that conversation.
Yeah, you can follow Hurley. You're about as crazy as Hurley.
No, we had enough of Hurley when he was at Rhode Island and I was at VCU.
Well, what I think makes you a great fit there is that NC State is a program that has tradition and has pride, but also happens to be in the same region as Duke and Carolina, which are two of the 5 best programs in the history of the sport. And that school needs someone that comes in and looks at it and doesn't look at Duke and North Carolina as Duke and Carolina. It looks at that's who we got to go beat. That's our competition right there. And I feel like I don't know if underdog mindset that you have is the right way to phrase it, but this attitude of coming in and saying, I'm going to go take the throne. I'm going to go take what's yours. I feel like you have, and I feel like works perfectly within that kind of athletic department and what that basketball program needs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've spent a lot of time maybe at NC State focusing on the other folks. Like, why don't we worry about ourselves? Mm-hmm. Like, if we can I don't think we've spent enough time maximizing what we do and maximizing ourselves. And I think if we maximize ourselves, we're going to be damn good. And every minute you spend diverting to something else. I mean, there's a coach in the SEC. He spent more time worrying about my program at LSU than he worried about his own program. He got fired. Like, he spent more time following me around and recruiting and looking at stupid stuff. And
who was it? Well,
but but I think if you can focus on your program and spend time focusing on your program and what you do, and we got everything we need here. Like, if there's people that are close to us who have won, then we should be able to win. Right. We're in the same recruiting area. We've got the same basic resources. I mean, look, it's plus or minus 5-10%, maybe, but
is 5 or 10%,
maybe. But I mean, like, we've got similar level of resource. I'm not talking about NIL. I'm talking about just the money share that everybody has. Like, we've got similar resources. Like, we should be able to do it if we focus on ourselves and maximize ourselves. And to Rob's point, if we find players who have the same type mentality that we have and that our fan base has and that our school has, we've got to find folks who are really, really good fits.
You got any crazy stories yet from NC State fans since you've been here? Anything really good? I mean, Chris Cortiani probably, will follow you around at this point. I saw him in Vegas, by the way. He was out there when we were out there in Vegas. He was wearing me out during the whole process, whether or not you were going to get the job. These fans are crazy. Anything really good so far, or you think it'll take a little bit of time?
Chris probably knew before me or you knew what was going on. But no, I mean, look, it's just – I will say this. Like, one thing that surprised me is, to Rob's point, there's a lot of schools within 25 miles of us. And I've been very surprised at just how many NC State fans there are. Like, every time we go out to eat, or every time I go to a restaurant, or every time I go somewhere, it's all NC State. Take a bunch of pictures. People come up to you. I thought it would be a little bit more, divided. But in this area, and especially when you go east to the coast, I mean, it's all Wolfpack. And I think when you go to Charlotte and Greensboro, there's a lot of NC State people, but it's a little more split with especially with Carolina folks. I guess the Duke folks are in Jersey, but
a lot of them.
Yeah, but I think that there's a lot of passion and a lot of excitement within our fan base, and we got to capitalize on that.
Is it strange how the perception of you has changed over the last few years? Because I think it has. I think it has partially because of how NIL has come into play, but not even that. Like, when you got fired at LSU and then what you did at McNeese and how a lot of people that are close to me have said even how you handled the situation in March with your players and publicly gained a lot of respect. You know, I think you wear your emotions in your sleeve. You really don't care what most people think of you that are outside of your circle. But how have you seen maybe the perception of you change?
Yeah, somebody told me this morning that NIL stood for now it's legal. I hadn't heard that one before. I was on a phone call this morning, and a coach told me that. Um, look, I don't know how much the perception has or hasn't changed. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about all that. So, look, we are who we are. We've always been who we are. We're the same people. And so, if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what I think. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna tell you what I think you want to hear. I'm not gonna tell And so, look, I do go at things probably a little bit unconventional, just because that's kind of just how I am. And I'm not gonna change a bunch of people's minds. So I don't try to spend a lot of time changing people's minds or spend a lot of time, fighting what people think. And the people who know us feel one way about us. A lot of the people who don't know us feel a different way about us, and that's fine with me. Like early in my career, I would worry about that stuff and try to kiss ass with the media and do it, like worry about
like you did when you met me from a Harvard assistant coach. You drove all the way out.
Yeah, like when I drove to see you, but now, like, it doesn't bother me. Like if you like me, great. If you don't, great. It's not going to change my life. It's not going to change our program. And so we just kind of go about our business, and hey, we are who we are, and you can take it or leave it.
When you were going through everything with McNeese in the tournament, and it was the worst kept secret in college athletics that NC State wanted you, right? Why did you decide to be as public as you were and be as frank as you were? I think that we've seen a couple of different coaches that ended up taking different jobs in this cycle leave a really bad taste in the mouth of the program that they left because of the way that they kind of handled it. And I don't think that it's necessarily that way with you. What was the kind of thought process there? And do you think it played out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the first thing is you want to limit distractions. And so I think we were able to limit the distractions with the team by just hitting it head on. And that's how we run our program is, we just tackle stuff head on. If there, we don't run from controversy. Like, we don't run from tough conversations. I've told her, your success in life will be directly correlated to the amount of difficult conversations you're willing to have every day. And so, we don't sit around and think it's like sunshine and rainbows all day. And, we have difficult conversations. Now, in fairness, I mean, look, my president and my AD, like, we were all on the same page. Like, everybody knew. And so
it was easier at your level,
correct.
Too. Like, Kevin Willard got a lot of shit, but if you're at Maryland,
it's a little
you're
harder.
dealing with that differently, are you not?
It's way different. Like, everybody, our board member, like, everybody knew, like, look, it was 2 years. We had, they knew that there was a high likelihood that we kind of been building towards this moment. So there was no need to hide. Now, look, when you're in a different environment, in a high major environment, yeah, you got to, there's no one right way to do it, but you've got to, you've got to do what's best for your situation and and look, we'd have lost to Clemson. Oh, they were distracted. Look, it'd have been, they were distracted. You can make the same decision, and they were distracted, and, they were playing for themselves and trying to get roster spots other place. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I felt like that was best with our group. Half the kids we recruited there came there like, all right, if you go high major next year, can we come? We have a couple kids that came with us. We have some kids who stayed back because that was best for them. So there was no need to hide from it, but our situation was very, very unique. My AD was a former basketball coach. He understood this thing as well as anybody. My president was
and they had a plan, and they had a plan going forward.
We had mapped things out going forward. They had a pretty good plan, a really good plan, but they had it down to a couple, they knew they had a good idea what was going on. We wanted this to be a smooth transition. And so we had open dialogue all year on everything. And so maybe not when we were 5-5,